All right, everybody. So Laine is next up. I'm trying to think of what I could say that Laine didn't say. I think one of the things that all of the teachers really appreciate is that Laine is tremendously helpful. So if we ever say, oh, can you work with this student or can you work with that student, Laine will, and it will actually be helpful, which I think is very generous, and I think that that's a real personality trait of yours. I also really appreciate that you are the consummate fangirl, and that you can talk about anything that's on Netflix, and that's always fun. So she has a lot to share with you today, and I want to make sure she has enough time to do that.
I think this is a good opportunity for all of us to reflect on the past few years. The good, the bad, and the extremely embarrassing. In the world-renowned Disney Channel original movie, Camp Rock, Demi Lovato said, "This is real, this is me, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Sometimes you just have to accept that this is where life put you, and you have to make the best of it. I know middle school sucks, but we need to use the last 3 months of our time together as best we can. These past 3 years have been a collection of the worst and best days of my life. And though I didn't exactly love most of middle school, it was important and interesting. So, without further ado, here's the accumulation of my middle school experience. Okay, so I'm definitely not a sporty person per se, but I guess I've had some physical growth over these 3 years. I mean, obviously not in height, but some. For instance, I started archery last year with the worst hand-eye coordination known to man. I mean, I remember I could barely hit the target, if ever. For the first couple of weeks, I used a left-handed bow with my right hand. In fact, just a couple of months ago, we were doing a practice tournament after school, and Winnie was scoring my round. I'm sure there was something very important that I had to tell her, so of course, I ran right across the gym, tripping over the target, and subsequently impaling my knee. But you see, I didn't realize this until about 3 minutes later when I saw a hole in my leggings as well as an excess of blood. I got in the car and my parents wanted me to get stitches, but I countered that Mr. Beasley said it was fine, and he's always right. So it started scarring over, and I don't think that mark's going to go away anytime soon. Now I try to avoid running into targets, and surprisingly keep improving my target score. I know archery isn't exactly a physical sport, but I'm glad I signed up. It gives me something to commit myself to without pressure and an overwhelming amount of practice. Sports have also helped me determine my time management abilities. For 6th and 7th grade, I decided that doing crew after school, 5 days a week, on top of 13 hours at Walden a week, was a great idea. I thought I was a great multitasker and could take them on both equally well. I was very wrong about that. The main problem was probably that I hated crew. I was very bad at it, and I'd walk to the ballet basement every day. We'd pull out the machines and row for 2,000 meters most days. I was never as fast as everyone else, and Coach would yell at me to get my time down as if it was some easy task. But I thought that I needed to do more activities and to be able to stay on top of my homework and rehearsals, and that just didn't really work out. Thankfully, I realized this was becoming detrimental and dropped it and started archery. And I'm so glad I did, because now I can make everything fit my schedule. Plus, however miserable crew made me, it also gave me a plethora of new experiences that helped me understand what I like and don't like. I may not exactly have been the best at rowing on the machines in the basement, but I am really good at rowing on the river and when I'm physically in the boat. However, I enjoy theater so much more. I could do 8-hour rehearsals every day and never get tired of it, but 45 minutes of crew had me passed out, ready to die. So, I think for now at least, I'll stick to what I love to do. I went into 6th grade hearing all of the cool and amazing things about middle school, and I was so excited and expecting nothing but the best. I had all these high expectations for what middle school would be like from my parents and teachers, and consequently, I was thoroughly disappointed. I never really struggled in school, but I also didn't really care about what I was learning. I would go to school, do my work, and go home the same every day. It's not that I didn't like school, but at that point I could skate by without ever having to study for things. 7th grade was a turning point for me. All of my classes started to challenge me, and I found myself actually having to study. Suddenly, I was interested in what we were learning. I found myself excited to participate in my class. My favorite classes have always been history and English. My whole life, I've definitely been more of a humanities-inclined kid rather than STEM and math. I love analyzing summarizing and annotating, especially getting into big discussions about what an author means and diving into the imagery and figurative language in a book. I'm also a huge fan of debating. I had so much fun in this Clearly's class last year because every class we get into an argument about something different, and usually off topic. We had so many debates and I was determined to win every time, even if that wasn't always the end result. Looking at you, Stuart. Another aspect of my academic life is also very much with my theater. Keeping my grades up there is just as important to me as my grades here, to be honest. I could pick apart the scansion and the meter of Shakespeare's plays for hours on end. I remember in one of my classes, we had to get differing interviews from people about a topic that's important to us, memorize and perform them both. I walked into class with a 5-minute-long interview from Henry acting like a fool, debating whether or not water is wet. You can imagine that's not exactly what my director had in mind. Overall, though, I think I've managed to find a balance between being bored and needing more to do, and completely overworking myself and juggling too much. If I met my 6th grade self today, I would be so embarrassed for her. I mean, God, how did I walk around with that hair? I'd also tell her not to be so dramatic about everything. Who did I think I was, sulking around like it was the end of the world and chopping off all my hair? I mean, God, what a loser. Socially, most of 6th grade sucked for me, and I A, had like 2 friends, and B, never tried talking to or reaching out to anyone. It was like I had my own little bubble and the whole world revolved around me and my miserable self. But by the middle of 7th grade, I started branching out. I remember at my theater, I used to do this thing where I wouldn't really talk to anyone and only participate in my classes, not really ever talking to my peers if I didn't have to. It got to a point where I felt way too overwhelmed and stressed that I had to take off the first semester of 7th grade from Walden. It's like I hated being there and overworking myself, and it was hard being in a class with all these talented people so much older than me. So I thought the best thing to do would be to quit, like everything else in my life. Over that semester, I remembered how much joy it used to bring me, and by the end of it, found myself counting down the days before it started back up that January. I was so nervous because that's the year when I started going into upper-level classes with a ton of work and projects instead of just working on a play every semester. I decided that if I was going to be able to go back, I needed to reach out and audition for things. And over time, I started to ask to meet with people to work on projects and scenes, which was a huge step for me. Now, we always try to do something at least once a week, whether it's making Ouija boards in my friend's basement, or practicing lines, or going swimming in the summer at my aunt's house. But most importantly, my friends and directors at Walden have given me a support network of people that I can always talk to and rely on no matter what. At Walden, we do this thing at the beginning of every class called the Candling In, which is where we all sit in a circle and light this pumpkin cinnamon candle and start to pass it around. One by one, we all talk about friend and school and family issues that have been on our mind all day long and burn them in the candle. At the beginning of the year, we started out with small things, like homework and tests and drama, things that are vague but still mean something to us. But what happened was that slowly, week by week, we started sharing more and more, building a trust in each other that started reflecting in our work together. The more we confided and trusted in each other, the more we were willing to go the full mile and not hold anything back in our pieces. Now we tell each other everything, from family issues to friend drama to health problems. My director, Jen, always says, trust is the most precious gift you can give someone because they can break it in a second. She says that every one of us has a marble jar for each of our friends. And each marble we put in their jar is a new bit of information about ourselves, and the more marbles we give them, the more comfortable they feel giving their marbles in return. I also think your inner self is formed by the experiences and hardships that you go through, now especially because they start to shape you as a person. I think that life tries to throw things at you when you're least prepared and when you're least expecting it. I wasn't expecting my dad to have brain cancer and 2 tumors in his head, but it's something that happened. It's something that completely changes your life really quickly. But all of my friends have been the best support network anyone could ask for. Whether it's late night calls from Lila telling me everything's going to be okay, or walking to Cane's with Masha and Sally, or sitting with Winnie on the deck of my house before we had to move out, I want to thank everyone in my life who is now supporting me. In conclusion, middle school kind of sucks, but it's important to the development of ourselves. We went into 6th grade as 12-year-olds who knew nothing about ourselves or the world around us. We're emerging from 8th grade as teenagers trying to find our sense of identity and where we think we want to fit in the world. However, it's important to stay true to ourselves, just like Demi Lovato. This is exactly where we're supposed to be. My first dedication goes to my mom. Mom, you rock. You're the strongest and bravest person I know, and if I can be anything like you when I get older, I'll be ecstatic. You are my hero and role model, and I want to learn your ability to love and appreciate unconditionally, and to make everyone feel as safe and as happy as you make people feel when they're in your presence. I don't think I could have made it through my middle school year without your love and support guiding my way. At the end of a bad day, it's good to know that you'll always be here for me. Mr. Beasley and Miss Laine, you two are the best teachers I've ever had. Mr. Beasley, you're one of the most blunt people I've ever met, and that kind of honesty is so grounding sometimes. When you found out my dad was in the hospital and everything that was going on, you never tried to console me or pity me. You just understand that sometimes life can be sucky, and that's okay. Miss Laine, my favorite part of the day is always when Winnie and I go and talk to you after school about friends and drama and classes and everything. You're always there when I just need to relieve all the stress from the day and just chat and vent. Also, I really, really, really want to meet your new puppy. Winnie Burkle is an attention-seeking fiend, but she's my attention-seeking fiend. Winnie, you have always been my bestest friend in the whole wide world, and I know I'm super annoying, but you're always there to let me know. You are the same person as my dog, Fitz. The similarities are uncanny. You are afraid of the stairs and of the vacuums, but you're also the sweetest, and I love you, even when you bark at the neighbors. You're also so unapologetically yourself, and I want to be as effortlessly funny as you are. You're the most authentic person I know. Demi Lovato would be so proud. Whoa!